Hey guys, welcome to Tech Fortitude, and today in this video we are going to see about Vim. So Vim stands for We Improvised, and it is an enhanced version of We Text Editor, which is a highly configurable and powerful text editor which you can find in Linux and Unix based operating systems, and you can access that using your default shell terminal. And its features are endless, and it is highly used among power users and administrators. And in this video we're going to see some of its main and useful features. So without any further ado, let's get started. So I have my terminal open here, and I have opened a separate directory called Vim tutorial. So now we're gonna start working with Vim. So first let's fire up Vim. So just type Vim on your terminal and this window opens up. So this is the default welcome screen of Vim, and from here you can navigate to any type of file, you can open up new session, you can work on your project from here, or you can even use the file name next to the Vim command which you use on your terminal. For example, now how do you actually exit Vim? You cannot just type exit and it won't work, right? Or we just can't use escape or any other key. How do we do that? It's very simple. What you gotta do is just type a colon and Q. Now you can see we have no write since last change. This is occurring because we haven't saved this file. So what we do here is we just need to go ahead and type a colon, Q, and an exclamatory mark, and that actually force closes the file. Okay, so now over here we can see we have came back to Vim, the terminal. So from this terminal we can open a file in a single command. So how do we do that? It's very simple. What you're going to do is type Vim and let's say new.txt, and that opens the file name, and that opens the file which you mentioned on the current working directory. Now as you can see, we have opened a plain file, or you can just go back to the terminal and open up Vim, and from here we can type a colon and type edit and type the file name. There we go. You can do it either in that way or through the traditional way. So here I have opened this text file. Now we can just start typing stuff, right? But it doesn't work that way. See, if I just type any words, or if I just click on any letters, I get this error because we need to get into something called as an insert mode to insert text in this file. By default it will be in the normal mode, which means you can just view the file and do some minor changes like copying and recording macros, pasting, and all these stuffs can be done in the normal mode. So how do we get into the insert mode? So for getting into insert mode we have two options. We can either press I, escape and press I, or we can press A. So what's the difference between I and A? So let me demonstrate. So I'm gonna open this file and I'm gonna type hello world. Alright, now in this hello world I'm gonna type escape, and if I type escape I can navigate my cursor through my arrow keys in my keyboard. Now let's put the cursor on W. Now if I type I, the cursor stays there, and whatever we type will be going before the cursor's placement. Now let's just type escape and go to the very last cursor position and type A. and now we can see the cursor moves a bit forward. So whatever we type will be typed after the cursor's previous position, which means whatever we type now will be entered after the previous position of the cursor. Watch this. So if I just type any words, it just types it after W. Alright, so it's that simple. Now we have typed some stuff into this file. So how do we save this file? And that's where saving the file comes in. So we cannot just type let's say escape :Q, and that shows an error. And if I just type :Q exclamatory, that force closes the file, which means the file won't be saved and it returns back to the previous state. So this is one of the my favorite features in Vim. So whatever change you do will be stored into the buffer. I mean, it won't be written to the file, but it will be stored to the buffer, and whenever you just save the file, then only the changes will be entered into the file. So watch this. So how can I write the content into the file? It's very simple. What you got to do is type escape and a colon and W, and that writes the file content into the file. Now I have saved the file, so I can just type :Q, but I don't have to type the exclamatory mark because we are not actually force quitting. We have saved the file, so we can quit it directly, just like that. Now if I just type cat new.txt, we can see hello world is printed because that's the content written into the file. Now let's go back to the new.txt file. So this is our newly created file. So inside Vim there is another mode called as visual mode. So what visual mode does is you can actually manipulate text in visual mode. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to quit this file and I'm going to open another file. Let's say edit sample.txt. Now this is a file which I have I have already created. So this is a text file and it has some text contents, right? So it has a configuration, it has a to-do list, it has a change log, and all these stuff is right here. Now if I this is one of the main features in Vim. You can actually interact Vim using your mouse like this. See, this works. And when we use our cursor, when we use our mouse and drag over the text, we can see that there's something displaying as visual in the down part. So this so you may have already seen this in the insert mode. It just shows insert, but now it's showing visual. So what does it mean? Because we are inside visual mode, so which means you can manipulate text, you can view text, you can copy, or you can, it says yank the text, and then you can paste it right into the file in this visual mode. And not only that, we can even navigate our cursor. So how we do that, you can actually do it with your arrow keys, but there is another way you can do the same. For example, if I type first let's get into the visual mode. Okay, so how do we get into the visual mode? It's very simple. What you gotta do is type escape V, and that gets you into the visual mode on this file. So in visual mode, if we navigate our text, navigate our cursor using the H key, and that moves before the cursor position, which means it moves left to the left. And if we use L, and that moves the cursor to the right. Now if we use J, that just gets the cursor to the next line. We can continue pressing J, and as you can see that the cursor is moving again and again to the next line. Now if we press K, that moves the cursor to the top line, to the very before line of the cursor's previous placement. So with this we can navigate our cursor in visual mode. And now you have seen that the cursor placement and the movement have actually highlighted some text. So it's nothing but it's just like how we just use our mouse to click and drag and select a particular text. It's actually the same, right? You can actually place your mouse cursor and click on a particular area and our cursor moves there. We can press V to get into the visual mode, and we can use our default arrow keys as well to highlight these text. And what you can do is you can cut, copy and paste stuff with this visual mode. That's what you call as manipulating texts. So now let's see how to copy, cut and paste contents in visual mode. So for example, I'm gonna copy the change log and I'm gonna paste it next to the server logs. So how do we do it? It's actually pretty simple. What you gotta do is, let's use our mouse cursor and go to the very last letter of the change log, and we can just go ahead and press V to get into visual mode and use our arrow keys to select the change log. Alright, now to copy this content, what you gotta do is you gotta press Y, and as you can see, 6 lines is yanked. So it's nothing but the lines have been copied. Now how do you paste it? It's actually pretty simple. What you're gonna do is we're gonna go over to the last part. So you can do it using your mouse, or you can just go ahead and press Shift G, and that moves to the very last line of the text. Now what you're gonna do is, let's move to the very last letter and press A, and now from here we can just type hit you gotta hit enter to move to the very next line. Now press escape and we can just type P, and that pastes the content which we just copied, which we just yanked before, in the place of the cursor's current position. Alright, it's that simple. Now you can see we have copied the change log and we have pasted it next to the notes part. I meant the server logs, but notes was the very last part, so I just pasted it down to the notes part. Okay, not only that, now we can see that we have pasted this change log, and we did that using the keystroke P. So what happens if we press the uppercase P or Shift P? So we can do it just by going to the very last part, type A to get into the insert mode, and go to the next line and then press escape, Shift P. Now we can see that it did the same thing, but what changed here is the cursor placement. So the cursor, what the cursor did was it pasted it after the cursor placement, right? But in this part we noticed that the cursor placement was here because the contents was pasted before the cursor placement. Here's how I did it. So let me show you another example. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to type a new text. So new text. Okay, so in this new text, what I'm going to type is I'm going to press escape V to get into visual mode. I'm going to copy this text. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Y, and that have yanked the text, the word text. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to type P, and that pasted the text, that pasted the yanked text after the particular cursor placement, right? You can note the change. Now let's undo this. Okay, let's come to the undo later. For now, let's just go ahead and type A and remove that change which we did before. Now just type escape and use Shift P. Now we see that the cursor just pasted the copied text next to the original cursor placement, so that it doesn't disturb the previous text, which means it will be the cursor placement just moves to the end of the pasted content. Now let's move on to undo and redo files. So how do you actually undo and redo stuff in Vim? It's actually pretty simple. What you're going to do is just type escape and you just undoes the file. So what about redo? You just gotta press R? No, that actually doesn't work. So how do you redo stuff in Vim? You just gotta press Ctrl R and that redo the stuff which you just undo. I mean you undid. So that's how you undo and redo stuff. So now what you're gonna do is let's just write the stuff, and now let's move on to the next part. So we have seen how we actually copy and paste stuff in Vim. So how do you actually cut stuff in Vim? Alright, so let's say you gotta cut a content inside your text file. How do you do that? It's actually pretty simple. What you're gonna do is, so let's move to the cursor, let's move to a point where we need to cut the particular content. Now let's press V and we can just select the text using our arrow keys, and now what you're going to do is we're going to type D and that cuts the text. Now we can just scroll, use the cursor and place it here, press A to get into insert mode and create a new line, escape, and we can just type P, and that have pasted the cutted the content which you just cut before. It's that simple, right? Now let's move on to the next topic, which is searching a word in Vim. It's so easy, it's so simple. Watch this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just save the file. Okay, so now here we have a content and it has so many words, but what about if you want to search for a particular word or a letter? How do you do that? You're gonna search it line by line? No, that doesn't work in huge files. Let's say you have a Python file for about thousands of lines. You can't just go ahead and scroll through line by line to just find that particular word. That doesn't work well. So how do you do that? It's pretty simple. What you gotta do is just go ahead and type an escape, and now just type a /. Now escape, and now just type a // and just type the word which you want to search. In my case, I'm going to search for my own name, so we can search my own name from this, and the cursor automatically moved to the line where the word exists, right? So let's just search for another one. Let's search for something null. Okay, so use // null, and that just gets the cursor to the line where the word null exists, right? It's that simple. So now this command just searches for a word on the whole file. Let's say you want to search for a word in a set of 2 to 3 lines alone, or let's say in a Python file you have created a function and you're going to search for a particular word in that function alone. So how do you do that? It's very simple. What you're going to do is type the same :/, and now you're going to type the range. So how do you type the range? It's that simple. What you're going to do is I'm going to search for something in this config session. Okay, so if we click on this line on the bottom hold up. Okay, so now on the bottom right corner we can see that this number is representing the line's number, and this 8 represents the position, the index of that line, which means the F in this config is on 7th line on the 8th position. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to search from the 7th line to 14th line. So let's do that. Okay, what you're going to do is type escape : 7, 14. So that's the range. We can set the range using S, and then we can search using the /. All right, and with the / we can search for a word. I'm going to search for root. Okay, there we go. Now the root is highlighting. You can see that, right? Or let's say I want to search for something, attendance and stuff. Okay, so it just searches for that particular word on the highlighted area. Okay, but what about if you want to search for a word and you gotta highlight that word as well to find it easily? Instead of just moving to the line and finding the word by yourself, you can even find the word in the command itself. Watch this. What you gotta do is you just have to move to the range, and instead of having the range, you can set percentage. The percentage represents the whole file, and you can search for any word in this file. Watch this. If I type unit, unit highlights, and if I type, let's say notes, pattern not found. Okay, that's okay. So we can use percentage as comma, forward slash, and we can search for info or info. There we go. Or we can search for notes, and that just finds the notes section. It's that simple, right? So now let's see how you can replace a particular word. So we have seen how we can search a word. Now let's see how you can search and replace that word. All right, so it's very simple. What you're going to do is, we have seen we have searched notes. Okay, I'm gonna replace notes with a word, let's say notes. Okay, and I'm gonna put another forward slash, and I'm gonna use G. Okay, which means G is nothing but it's a flag. So what G does is it just replaces the word which is highlighted in the search. Now if I just type enter, now the notes is replaced with the string which we just did. Okay, not only that, we have multiple flags on replacing words inside Vim. For example, let's just pull up the last command. So colon percentage s forward slash, and I'm gonna search for, let's say change log. Okay, change log. Now I'm gonna just change the change log to change log. Okay, and I'm gonna put the flag as C. So what it does is it asks me a confirmation. So if I type just I can just type Y, and that replaces it just like how it replaced notes. So I'm gonna just press N for now, and that just asks me every single place where change log is detected. So in my case, the file has 3 words, change log, and change log. So it asks me 3 times to highlight every single word, and asks me to whether it can replace that word or not. Not only that, we can use the flag I to ignore case sensitivity. We can use uppercase I for overriding case sensitivity, which means it enables and it ensures that the case sensitivity is enabled. The next thing is N, which just returns the count of the word of occurrence. For example, we can just use a colon and percentage, and I'm gonna just go ahead and type s forward slash change log hyphen n. So it just displays 3 matches on 3 lines, because change log occurred in my file 3 times, so that's why it's showing me 3 matches found. And we can also use the flag R to use the previously used search pattern, the flag. Okay, so we can even use that. Moving on to how you can actually change your working directory. So in Linux, basically you can use CD, which stands for change directory, and you can actually navigate to any directory in Linux or any Unix based operating system, even on Mac OS, using the CD command. But in Vim, you can use something called as tcd. Okay, so watch this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and, you know, so this is a wallpaper project. It's a wallpaper website, and now we're gonna change our working directory to this particular folder. Going back to our terminal, and inside Vim we can just use :tcd, and then we just need to paste the directory, and we have moved our working directory inside the Loomscape, which is the wallpaper project which I was working. Alright, now we can search for a file inside this working directory. We have changed the folder, we have changed our project working directory. We can actually find a particular file inside this changed working directory. For example, let's see if there is an index.html file exists. We can just type :find. I'm going to type index.html, so we can see no write since last change. Okay, we gotta save this file. Okay, done. Now we can search for index.html, and there we go. So this is the index.html of my wallpaper project. Let's see whether we can open the styling, the style sheet of the site. Okay, so we can go ahead and type find style.css. There we go. We have opened our CSS file of the project. We can also edit this project, right? So using our insert mode, we can add stuff to this just like that. Okay, now let's just go ahead and close this file. Now we have came back to our terminal. Now let's open up Vim. So now Vim is again opened on the working directory which we defined on our terminal, which is the Vim tutorial folder. All right, now the next thing we're going to see is we're going to see how you can create sessions in Vim. We can create multiple sessions inside Vim, and you can open your projects inside that session. For example, let's say I'm going to create a new session called so I'm going to create a new session. So we can just type mk session for making the session, and I'm gonna go ahead and type a project name, for example sample.vim. So that's our session. So not only that, we have to open a particular file for that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, okay, so to open a session, first we gotta open a file. So I'm going to type edit sample.txt, and we have came back to our previously working file. Now let's just see how you can save this into a project file. Let's save this into a session. So how do we do that? It's very simple. Just type escape mk session, and we can save this session into a project. For example, let's say sample.vim, and now that have saved this into a session. So we can just go ahead and close our project, and you can just type ls, and inside ls we can see the sample.vim file is created. So that's our session, that's our project file. We can open that project file to get back into our working file, the working directory. Let's see how you can open that project file. So to open that project file, you can do it on your actual shell terminal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type vim s for the session, and we can open up sample.vim, and as you can see, the session is opened. Now let's see how you can actually overwrite something in this file. For example, let's say I want to create a new file or do something like that. Now let's see how you can overwrite the previous session. Okay, so we can do that by typing :mk s for make session, and use exclamatory for force, and we can say update.vim as the new session name, and we can type escape :q to close it. And if I type ls, we can see we have created another Vim project, that is that's the duplicate of the previous session or the updated version of the project. Okay, now moving on to the next thing is split screens. We can open split screen in Vim. For example, let's say Vim sample.txt to open the previously opened text file, and inside this I want to open it into a split screen. So you can do that by typing :split. There we go. So now we have opened the sample text in two split screens, and we can adjust this split screen's size using several keystrokes. For example, we can type Control W to move cursor between two splits, right? So it moves to the upper one and the down one by pressing just Control W. And not only that, you can actually go ahead and press Control W, and that actually displays some character on the down corner. Now what you can do is we can just type Shift hyphen, and that actually resizes the split. How do I actually close one of these splits? It's very simple. Type escape colon and type close, and that actually closes the split screen, and we can actually come back to the single working file. So now let's see about markers. So markers are very simple. What you it's just like its name, you can actually mark a particular line or a word inside your file, and you can navigate to that file by pressing the keystroke. For example, let's say I'm gonna navigate, I'm gonna set a marker at this point right here. Okay, type escape, and we can see that still the cursor is in the place which we just marked. Now type M. Okay, M stands for the marker, and type Y. Now what it does is it actually marked the marker Y, that is the current the cursor spot. Okay, so now if I just go ahead and click on somewhere else, and if I just press the single quotation Y, that actually moves to the line where my actual marker was recorded. And we can record multiple markers as well. For example, I'm going to type MK, and that is this line. Okay, so if I just type single quotation K, that moves to that particular line. If I type single quotation Y, that moves me to that marker. So now how do I see the markers which I created, or the available active markers? It's very simple. You gotta do is just press colon, type marks, and that displays all the available markers in Vim which you created as well. So here we can see our K marker exists, and that's this line over here, and our Y marker is this line. Now we can see the single quotation is available here as well, and it's the K marker. It's the same content, but how? It's very simple. So what it does is marker marks the recently viewed marker in the column itself. So if you just press colon, that moves to the last opened marker. So let's see colon Y, that moves over here, and press let's say I'm gonna press something else here and press colon, that moves once again to this previously viewed marker. And we can press lowercase g colon to move to the position of the last change, and we can press we can actually press colon jump to get to view the jump list. Okay, so we can do that by typing colon jumps, and that actually displays all the jump lists which we just did. And we can also delete the markers. It's very simple. You can just go ahead and type del marks and type the letter, and we have deleted the marker. So let's see whether it's deleted or not. So now we can see Y marker is not available because we just deleted it, right? If I just type enter, it moves back to the file. Let's just delete the K marker as well. So del marks and press K, and we have deleted K as well. So if I just type marks and K is also not listed here because we just deleted K. Alright, so now let's move on to the next feature, what you call as buffers. So what's buffer anyway? So if we open a particular file inside Vim, what Vim does is it actually reads the content of the file and it stores it into the memory, and that is what you call as a buffer. And inside Vim you can create multiple buffers, and you can access these buffers by just moving using keystrokes, or we can even set key maps to set shortcut keys to move to various buffers which you just created and which is active and open. Alright, so now let's see how you can create a buffer and how you can cycle through multiple buffers. So here I have already opened the sample.txt file, right? So we can just type colon and type another edit, and I'm going to create another file as well. So I'm going to type, let's say, new file.txt, and that created another file. And let's say I want to type hello, welcome to Tech Fortitude. Alright, now if I type escape, now this is a file content. Let's write this, and it is written to new file.txt. Now you can actually see that the old file is disappeared because it is also stored in the buffer, but it's not in our current working area. So how you can actually view that buffer once again? It's very simple. What you're going to do is just type colon ls, and that displays all the available buffers which we just created. So the sample.txt is the previous text file which had all those contents, change logs, and all those project information which we just saw before. And this new file.txt is the file which we just created, and the single sentence which we just typed and saved it, right? So now as you can see, there's a number right here. So this is the buffer ID. You can actually cycle through different buffers using this buffer ID. All right, so let's type enter and colon B, and I'm gonna move to buffer ID 1. There we go, colon buffer ID 5. There we go. Now we can see we have we can cycle through different buffers. Not only that, we can actually preview each buffers. For example, if I type B next, that shows a preview of the next buffer on the queue. Or I can type B prev, which shows the previous buffer as a preview. And we can use the command colon B hash, and that opens the recently opened buffer. Not only that, we can even remove a particular buffer. So for that, let's create another file. So edit, I'm gonna create a new file. Let's say one file.txt, hello, and I'm gonna type hello. I'm gonna write this file, escape colon write, and now with this we can type ls. We can see we have created 3 buffers, and now with these 3 buffers, what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete a particular buffer. In my case, I'm going to delete this one file.txt. all right, so how you can do it? It's very simple. What you're going to do is I'm going to type enter colon, and in this I'm going to type bd, and then bd, and I'm going to type the id. Okay, in my case, what's the id? So it's id number 6. all right, so what we can do is colon bd6, and that deletes the id. So if I just type colon ls, we can see that the id number 6 is disappeared because we just deleted the buffer. all right, and not only that, we can delete every buffer by just typing colon percentage bd, and that deletes every single buffer. Okay, I'm not going to do that, but you can actually do it. And not only that, we can also view all those buffers as a list. So how do you do that? So type colon b space tab, and that gives us all the available files. And also similarly, you can also view all the available commands as well. So how you do that? So command, and let's say you actually remember a particular command but not entirely, you just know it starts with letter B. or it starts with letter L. In that case, you can just type that L and type tab, and that just opens up a list of commands. You can select every single command from here and just type enter, and that command will be entered on your console. It's that easy. Alright, now let's move on to the next topic, multiple tabs. So here what I'm going to do is, first let's delete all the available buffers. Okay, I don't want to mess up my workspace. So BD, 6 buffers deleted. So now we can open up, let's just queue and let's open up sample.txt once again. So in this, I'm gonna open up a new tab and create a new file in that. So we can just type colon tab E, and that created another tab. Okay, now in this I can type edit. I'm gonna go ahead and edit new sample.txt, and I'm gonna write something. Let's say hello everyone, subscribe to Tech Fortitude. Alright, now I can just type escape colon write. Now we have created another file, and on the top we can see there is something like a tab. Like you can actually click on these tabs using your mouse and navigate to them. You can create multiple tabs as well. We can just go ahead and type tab E, and it created another one. So edit 2.txt. so this I'm gonna type this is 2.txt. so escape colon write, and with that we can just see we just created 3 separate tabs, right? We can just navigate through that using our mouse, or you can actually use your keyboard and use commands to do it. So we can just type escape colon tab N. So tab N stands for tab next, which means it moves to the next tab of the particular current active tab. So if I type tab N, it moves there. Okay, so if I type tab N once again, it moves to the next file. And if I type tab P, it moves to the previous one, because tab P stands for tab previous, which means it moves to the previous tab. Alright, it's that simple. Let's say I want to close a particular tab. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type tab P, and that moves me to the 2.txt. I don't want this tab, so we can type tab close, and it closes that tab. Same for this, tab close, just like that. Now let's just quit and let's move to the next one, macros. So macros are very interesting ones. So I have created this particular file just for explaining macros. Okay, so let me explain macros very quick. It's a very useful feature. So what it does is you can actually record a particular keystrokes or your changes onto a line, and that recorded change can be it can be applied to every single line where you call that macro. For example, here I'm gonna record a particular macro. So in this first line, I'm gonna just put hello before before every name in the list. Okay, you can do it line by line manually, but it sucks because if you have a lot of data and you gotta do a lot more changes and it's all similar to each other, and you cannot do it manually because it takes so much time. So how do you do it automated way? So that's where macros comes in. Watch this, it's very simple. So what you're going to do is you're going to move your cursor to the very first area where your recording should start, and then we can type Q, and that creates a keystroke here, Q. I'm going to create a macro at L. Now we can see recording at L, that's what we get here. Now we can just type A, and that gets to the insert mode, and we can type hello and welcome. Alright, so this is our keystroke. Now type escape. So this is the change which we did to the line 1, and we can type Q to record, to complete the recording. Now we can just go ahead and apply this to the second line as well. But how do you do it? It's very simple. Just move to the second line, type at L. That's it. It's very simple. What's a bib? It's a bob. Bob. Okay. Now we can do it on the third line as well. So escape at L. It's that simple. So you just gotta apply the macro in every line. You can even automate it, even further. Like for example, let's say you wanna apply this from line 4 to line 8, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. You gotta apply it for 4 times. But how do you do it? It's very simple. Just type 4 at L, and it applies it to 4 parts. But why did it just put it on next to each other? Because we stopped the recording after writing hello and welcome. So you gotta do it properly. You gotta type hello and welcome, move to the very first line of the next line, and go to the very first position, and then you gotta stop the recording. In that case only this will work. So I'm gonna do it once again. So I'm gonna type U to undo. Alright, I'm gonna record a macro once again. So type Q. I'm gonna type a recording at N. Alright, so now I'm gonna type a hello and welcome. Alright, now let's move to the next line and the very first position, and type exit and colon. We can type Q, and that closes the macro. Now let's apply macro here. So I'm gonna apply it for 3 areas. So 3 at N. There we go. It worked. It worked like charm. So how you can do it? It's very simple. Watch this. So I'm gonna go ahead and type Vim, and I'm gonna edit a new file. I'm gonna name it as, let's say, new.py. So this is a Python file, right? So we can type print. I'm gonna type hello world. All right. So this is a Python file. So let's just escape, save it. Now we can actually run this Python file. Watch this. So what I'm going to do is colon W and an exclamatory Python 3, and I'm going to type the percentage symbol as well. And now if I just hit enter, we get the output hello world. And here's a very interesting thing in Vim. You can actually set password for your files inside Vim. Watch this. So I'm gonna open up Vim sample.txt, and that opens our text file. So we can set an encryption key here. So colon X, and it asks me for an encryption key. I'm gonna set an encryption key. All right. It's gonna ask me to enter it again, and if I type Q, I'm gonna write and quit. So if I open sample.txt, it asks me for the encryption key. So if I type the encryption key, it opens. But how do I actually remove the encryption key? It's very simple. What you gotta do is colon uppercase X and leave it as it is. Don't enter any encryption key. So now let's write and quit it. Let's open sample.txt, and it opens. So that is Vim for you guys. So we have seen all the basics and some of the main useful features of Vim, and I really hope that you learned something new in this video. And even if I missed something in this tutorial, you can comment it down below, and I'll make a part 2 out of it. And that's it guys. Don't forget to give a like, share and subscribe to Tech Fortitude, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Thank you.